I don't know why I'm here. I'm just going to be honest. I bought a microphone to do some guided meditations for a group that I manage. And I am going to be taking my test for my certified meditation teacher, not medication, oh my gosh. And so I bought this because there's a couple things that I wanted to do for myself that I figured I would record them and allow other people that I know personally to see whether or not they work for them. And here I am doing a podcast, and I don't understand why. So yes, I don't know why I'm here, but here we go. I started my journey well before I knew I had actually begun it. I can remember things that have happened as far back as 5. And I knew I had seen a Luna moth a couple times in my life, so 3 times at this point. And I know that when I see that, some stuff's about to go down. Never know what, but so the first time there was one at my front door. The second time I don't remember, it was just random, and I really don't remember that experience. But the most recent one was September of, we're in 21, so 2019, and I went to take my recycles out, and I almost squished the Luna moth caterpillar on my recycle bin. And I remember posting it and saying, uh-oh, some stuff's about to go down. Little did I know exactly what was about to go down. So in that time, and I'm sorry my chair squeaks if you can hear that, I'm not sure. In that time, it's now been a year and about a month and a half, and I have gone through a complete spiritual awakening. This past year, I want to say it's a roller coaster, but it's like the downhill version of the roller coaster, but I'm only going up, if that makes sense. Like, it's just, it kind of feels like a bullet almost. But a lot of things have happened in between then, and I know a lot now makes sense for me that didn't before. I did used to be a Christian. Yes, I was. I now have renounced my Christianity, and my beliefs are a little different than most people, but they always have been. So it's not that I don't believe in Jesus. There's a lot of the Bible that I don't agree with. So I'm just going to leave that there. I'm not going to get into that because that's not for this. But for those of you who are starting an awakening, going through an awakening, or you just kind of feel like you're losing your mind, your place in the world, if you are going through an awakening, it is beautiful. It is detrimental. It is chaotic. It is disheartening. It is revelatory, if that's even a word. Like, it's just revelation after revelation. You begin to love yourself so much from the inside out, and you realize that all the things that you've been taught your entire life kind of aren't really what they seem. And the deeper that you dig into yourself, the more awareness you have, and it is amazing. So I'm not going to go into all that today. Just going to kind of get how I started. So I told you about the moth, and then all of a sudden I wanted a tarot reading. My entire life I had been told that tarot cards are the devil's work, and it's witchcraft, and all this other stuff. I now identify as a witch, by the way. But I had my first tarot reading. I posted randomly on social media, and actually a trusted family member had reached out, and she gave me a reading. Now, I went into it completely skeptical. Completely. I didn't believe anything. And then she went on to tell me things that nobody knew. Like, she told me things that were happening, that had happened, that I hadn't told a single soul. She told me about the books that I was writing, things that were happening in my life, issues with family members and issues in relationships that I hadn't even admitted to myself, but they were there. So that's kind of what led me in the direction. And then I started doing research on spiritual awakenings and witchcraft. And I'm just going to say this right now, witchcraft is not the devil's work. It's not. If worshiping the earth and the fact that we are all connected makes me a devil worshiper, then maybe we need to reevaluate the word devil. That's neither here nor there. Another day and time. But when I did have my awakening, I, honest to God, thought I was going crazy. And I remember telling my husband that your only job in this is to make sure I don't get committed, because we have kids and I can't be committed. But this is what's happening to me. Everything changed. My dreams changed. How I viewed the world changed. I was seeing things that I had never seen before. And like one of the things that I had seen was I looked up at the moon when I was on a walk with my 3 kids. Now, mind you, this was during COVID, so my kids were all home with me. So we would homeschool during the day, and then I had to get them out of the house because it was just too much. And I remember this one time we were looking up at the moon, and I'm looking at the moon, I'm like, wow, that moon's like, it doesn't look like it's going the right direction. Like, it's going backwards. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, all right, you are really losing it. And my youngest goes, Mom, why is the moon going backwards? And I looked at him, I was like, what did you say? And he repeated it again. And I was like, okay. So then I had looked up, and I was just kind of staring, and my oldest goes, Mom, do you see like all the fuzz in the air? What are you talking about? And sure enough, she could see all the little sparkles that I could see. Still don't know what they are, but I do know it's not just my eyes, because all of my kids have confirmed that they can see it too. So that had happened. I walked through a couple like really weird temperature changes in my house that could not be explained. One was in my hallway. My house was warm, and I walked through this cold cloud like 3 times, and I walked completely down my hallway 3 times and turned around and walked back. The cloud was in the same spot every time. So things will happen, and you will feel like, I hate the word crazy, because you're not crazy. I'm not crazy. We're not crazy. Like, how are millions and millions of people crazy if it's happening to so many of us? But it's happening. So no, you're not crazy, but for lack of a better word, that's what I'm going to use. I forgot where I was going with that. So another thing that happened with me that really freaked me out, and I think this is one of the biggest ones, is time started to change. Now, I know that sounds insane, but, and I'm getting a warm tingle down my back. Okay. Time completely changed for me. I always had a problem where if I wore my watch, I would kill my battery, and it wasn't real bad. But when I had my awakening, I don't know what happened. I don't know if my energy vibration changed, which I'm sure it did, but I put a brand new battery in my watch and killed it within a month. Normally it would take me like a year or 2, so I haven't worn a watch in over a year and a half because I got tired of replacing batteries. But I would look at the clock, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's 11 o'clock, and I would fold a single load of laundry and look at the clock again, and it's 2 o'clock, and I'm like, hold on, 3 hours just went by, what happened? And then I'd look at my watch again, and it was a half an hour earlier than it was the time before. Now, this sounds insane, it does, but it happened to me. It did, I'm telling you, and it creeped me out. It would feel like hours had passed, and I looked down, and it was 2 minutes. I mean, there's no way that you could read 3 chapters and 2 minutes pass. Like, it was insane. So I had actually posted in one of the groups that I was in, does anyone else feel that the time distortion? And sure enough, many, many, many of us did. Now, the group that I run personally, I have asked in there, and I've had confirmation from people that I know personally, from people that I trust with my whole heart. People that I trust with my life have told me the same thing. So I know what I'm experiencing isn't made up. I know what I'm experiencing it's happening to me. I know that it is. And it's taken me about a year and a couple months to accept that. And maybe that's why I'm here, is because there are parts of my journey that I continue to deny. One of my advisors that I deal with, I can think of things and she messages me. Like, she'll message me a random meme and be like, here, I was told to send this to you. And it's literally what I was just thinking about. I was on TikTok for a while, and I got so tired of being bombarded with messages from my guides and the people around me that I actually deleted my account. And then it went to Instagram and Facebook, and then there's a point where I'm just like, okay, guys, I'm done, and I log off of all social media for the day because I can only take so much. But I will tell you that this journey, as hard as it can be, is so worth it. And I kind of go where my heart leads me. Most people are like, where do you start? Where do you start? I go where my heart tells me to, because your soul knows what to do. And I know when I'm about to have some big shadow work because I get my signs. So, like, I see angel numbers all day. That's another synchronicity. And I know I'm kind of skipping around here, but this is just an introduction. So, for me, I think angel numbers are different for everybody. You may see them all the time, but you have to figure out what they mean for you. You can Google as many as you want, but until you figure it out, you need to keep a log. I don't do that. I should. I keep screenshots and pictures and photos, and I don't ever put two and two together, but that's probably my ADHD. But I do know there are certain symbols that when I see, I know what's coming. Especially for me, spirals, I know that I have shadow work coming. And not just a little bit of shadow work, like major shadow work that's gonna make me cry for 3 days. But now when I see that, I get excited because I know that I have more learning to do. I know that I have more growing to do. I know that I am going to discover a hidden part of myself. Another thing that I do is when I do guided meditations or Manjingxian, I go on YouTube and I just type in guided meditation, and it's usually the time slot that I'm going to use. And I just kind of pick whichever one my finger taps on, and that sounds insane, but that's where we're at. I'll scroll, and then whichever one I kind of disassociate for a minute. Whichever one I click on is the one I listen to, and it's usually the one that I needed that I didn't know I needed. That's what's happened to me with the past life regression that I did. I hadn't planned on it being as intense as it was, but I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about that life and this life and the ties that I have between the two, and that was a real eye-opener for me. That was another thing that I had that I did that I couldn't explain it. I had done the meditation, and I was there. I felt it. When I walked through that door, like they told me, I cried. My chest hurt. I felt pain. I felt death. I felt all this stuff that I couldn't explain. And I just had this, and I'm crying, I'm sorry. I just had this one phrase that kept repeating over and over. And I was told, you need to look this up. And it was the same phrase over and over and over and over. And when I Googled it when I was done, all I could do was cry. Because there was no way that I could have known that. There's no way that I could have possibly. And I had never heard of this person, and I won't say who it is on here. That's not my thing. But there was no way, unless I had lived that life, that I would have seen what I saw, known what I knew, and had been able to verify it. All I have to say is I wasn't nice. So that's why I'm here now. I am here to make up for that. I will say that. But yeah, it's you go where your heart leads you. So right now I am on a shamanic path, and that seems to be where I go. I do have indigenous roots, so I've been told, but I've always resonated deeply with them. Even as a child, I collected porcelain dolls, and they were all native dolls. It's always been my thing. When I hear the chants and the powwows, it gives me tingles, and so I'm not appropriating that. I very much respect the natives and their customs, and it's just something that has always resonated with me on a soul level from the time I was little. I remember being younger than 13, and for Christmas, I asked for a porcelain doll. Like, I had to have Mourning Dove. She was my favorite thing ever, and I used to carry that porcelain doll everywhere. And I mean, she was my pride and joy. But yeah, so it's your sorry about that. Your soul knows where you need to be. If you're getting pulled into astrology, because I do that every once in a while, I'll feel like, oh, I need to dig into my natal chart again. And I do, and it unlocks this whole new level that I didn't know I was supposed to be at. But just follow your heart. That's going to lead you where you need to go, whether or not you know it. Because we are infinite beings, we are much more than we know we are, and we are sovereign. But I think that's pretty much it for today. Again, I don't really know why I'm starting this, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it when I'm drawn to. I'll do my little podcast, and if you have any ideas or recommendations or something that you want me to talk about, please feel free to submit it below. Thank you for your time.